When political violence strikes, it reveals the ugly truth about how divided we've become as a nation. Bill Maher found himself reaching for extra drinks during his recent Club Random podcast recording, and the reason will shock you. The comedian and political commentator was grappling with news that had just broken. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk had been fatally shot that very day. This is a terrible day because someone who was sitting right here, Charlie Kirk, was gunned down today, and I cannot get it out of my mind, Maher confessed during the episode. His guest, Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins, echoed the sentiment, admitting he was equally haunted by the news. But here's where Maher's response gets controversial and cuts straight to the heart of America's political toxicity. If you're standing on the opposite side of the political spectrum and you don't give a damn because someone from the wrong team got killed, then screw you, Maher declared with raw emotion. You represent everything that's broken about this nation. Maher had recorded this podcast episode earlier in the day, before filming his regular Friday night HBO show, Real Time. During that television appearance, he maintained a more reserved, melancholic demeanor while discussing Kirk's tragic death. However, he didn't hesitate to challenge his conservative guest, Ben Shapiro, when the pundit immediately assumed the shooter must have been a leftist activist. We're only 2 days into this tragedy. We don't know anything concrete yet, Ben. The pattern is always the same. The internet has a perfect track record of getting these details completely wrong from the start. Maher firmly told Shapiro, essentially fact-checking him in real time. And this is the part most people miss about Maher's relationship with his political opponents. The podcast revealed Maher's more vulnerable, human side as he reflected on Kirk's previous appearance in that exact same studio just 5 months prior. During that earlier conversation, both men had discovered unexpected common ground in their shared opposition to what they termed woke culture. Kirk had actually praised Maher during that interview, saying, "You demonstrated more moral backbone than religious leaders I personally know who jumped aboard the woke insanity express. You deserve recognition for that stance because it came at a significant personal cost." Charlie Kirk and I were certainly worlds apart on most political issues, but he was present in this very chair. He was a fellow human being, not some evil caricature. Maher reflected with genuine emotion. I actually enjoyed his company. That's true for all of them. Every single person becomes likable when you meet them face to face. Nobody is as extreme or unhinged as the media portrayals suggest. Maher went further, making a statement that might ruffle feathers on both sides of the political divide. We'll never find a solution to this crisis unless we start with both political camps acknowledging that we're all guilty of contributing to this toxic environment, he said, referencing the alarming surge in politically motivated violence across the United States. However, this balanced approach stands in stark contrast to the immediate response from President Donald Trump, who released a video statement to the nation shortly after Kirk's murder became public knowledge. Rather than calling for unity or waiting for facts, Trump pointed fingers exclusively at the radical left, blaming them for inspiring the shooter before any investigation had even identified the perpetrator. But here's where it gets even more controversial. Maher used this tragedy as a launching pad to defend his controversial decision to maintain dialogue with Trump and other polarizing figures. And to all those critics who constantly attack me with comments like, "I cannot believe you actually sit down and talk with Trump." Well, I'm not even going to waste time explaining why that's such an incredibly foolish perspective. But let me ask you this. Where exactly does this boycott mentality end? Fine, I can't speak with him. So who's the next person on the blacklist? The millions of Americans who voted for him? Should I also refuse to talk with Joe Rogan? Maher challenged his critics. He continued his passionate defense. What about someone like Sylvester Stallone? The man is genuinely wonderful to be around. We're talking about Rocky here, for crying out loud. Really? I'm supposed to shun him too? Get lost with this complete nonsense. This raises a fascinating question that cuts to the core of our political moment. In an era where political violence is escalating and dialogue across party lines is becoming increasingly rare. Is Maher's approach of maintaining conversations with political opponents part of the solution? Or does it inadvertently normalize dangerous rhetoric? Some might argue that Maher's willingness to humanize political opponents and find common ground represents exactly the kind of bridge building America desperately needs. Others might contend that platforming certain figures, regardless of personal pleasantries, helps legitimize harmful ideologies and contributes to the very polarization that can lead to violence. What do you think? Is Maher's approach of separating the person from their politics a naive luxury we can't afford in these dangerous times? Or is it precisely the kind of human connection that might help heal our fractured democracy? Should public figures be expected to completely cut ties with those whose political views they find abhorrent? Or does that kind of isolation actually make political violence more likely? The answers to these questions might determine whether we can step back from the brink of an even more divided and dangerous political landscape. Share your thoughts. Do you agree or disagree with Maher's philosophy of maintaining dialogue across political divides?